What is up, guys? Welcome back to the third installment of this e-waste rescue series that I've been doing. This is the next computer I'd like to show you that I got from our e-waste haul that my friend Chris and I went to. Basically, we got a bunch of computers from a recycling center, and I've just been slowly introducing them through these videos. So, anyways, this is an Apple PowerBook 170, and when I saw this thing there, I just had to have it because this is a rather somewhat noteworthy Apple laptop in that the PowerBook 100 series was one of the first Apple laptops to have a traditional laptop form factor as compared to like the Macintosh Portable that came before, which really doesn't look like a laptop as we think of one today. So this was a very special machine. This is a PowerBook 170. This is the highest end version that was initially available. These came out back in 1991. And yeah, I'm going to show it to you. So here it is, as you can see in all of its very thick plastic glory here. It's actually in pretty decent shape. There's not a whole lot of damage. There's one thing over here is the actual feet. Now, if you didn't know, these PowerBooks actually do contain feet. You can flip them up like that and kind of give the laptop a tilted aesthetic there, but on this side the feet is actually missing. I don't know if it's actually broken off or not, but it's gone regardless. And also the I/O door is missing on the back. And then there is also a crack in the plastic right here where this little screw goes in. But otherwise, it's actually in pretty good shape. There's really no other cracks or scratches or anything on it. So that's pretty cool. Of course, you can see we have that classic rainbow Apple logo that, of course, was their corporate logo until, I believe, 1998 when Steve Jobs came back to the company. But on the front, you can see we have our latch here. Nothing other than that. Moving to the left side, we just have the battery, which I've actually removed because, as you may or may not be able to tell, it is a bit swollen. So I now have two swollen batteries I need to get rid of, but it should run without a battery. Although I believe the clock battery does need to be present, which it is. I'll also need to be changing that, but we can get to that later. Moving to the right side, we have a floppy disk drive. I believe this is an 800K drive. I'm not sure if it is a 1.4 meg, but I don't know. Something tells me it's not. Moving back to the rear again, you can see we have our power port over here. This thing does just take a 7.5 amp or 7.5 volt 2 amp power supply, which I do actually have, which, you know, we'll get to in a minute once I show you guys the laptop. We have a modem here, which is actually on a separate card. We have a SCSI port of some variety. I know it's SCSI, but this is like a special portable port that Apple was using. Not exactly sure of that. I believe this is an ADB port. We have some audio ports here, and then I believe this is the printer and modem port here. I'm not exactly sure on that, but I believe compared to other vintage Macs I've seen that this is a similar port arrangement to that. Here we have a reset and interrupt switch. Of course, you're going to need kind of a thumbtack or like a paper clip to hit those on this model, but they are there. And of course, the power button is here. Moving along the bottom, there's not much. You can see we just have a PowerBook 170 logo denoting the computer, and then of course the voltage that it needs to run. So that was cool. Let's go ahead and open it up to continue, I suppose. Now, I did take a look at the interior of this machine. I actually split the case apart and just made sure that everything looked okay because you never know with these old Macs. It was nice to find that the actual clock battery looked totally fine, although it's, you know, kind of it was a coin cell battery, so it wasn't. That doesn't seem like they were too prone to exploding, kind of like the other batteries, but I will need to get that changed out very soon, although I don't exactly have the resources to do that at the moment. Anyway, let's go ahead and open it up and take a look at the inside, which is also in equally good condition. Let me go ahead and move the camera a little bit. There we go. As you can see, there is the interior of the PowerBook. There's really no damage to report. The only thing that's really missing is this little rubber nub in one of the display screws, but otherwise everything's here. All the keys are here. The mouse works totally fine. There's nothing wrong here. Over here in the corner, you can see we actually have a brightness control slider. Of course, I have that all the way up because this screen is not that bright. Here we have a display up here, and this is actually kind of noteworthy because I believe the 170 was the only one to have an active matrix LCD panel, which was a big deal at the time. Of course, it still is monochrome, so black and white, but that's kind of the hallmark of these vintage Macs. And then you can see we have a nice trackball mouse, so that's Very nice. And I believe this does rotate so you can take the ball out and clean it. That's kind of what it looks like anyways. And then this is your left click. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't experimented with this clicky button yet. We'll find out what it does in a minute, I guess. So without further ado, let me go ahead and plug it in. And this thing does work. I'm just going to go ahead and spoil it right now because I'm excited, but I'll go ahead and plug it in like that. And I'll hit the power switch. Now it does kind of make that high-pitched whine from the speaker. It does go away after a while, but I'm not exactly sure what the reasoning is for that. But as you can see, the screen is nice and bright. Now we got a happy Mac. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Or actually, no, you know what? I'll leave it as is. I do apologize for that high-pitched whine. It will go away, trust me. But you can see it's making all kinds of noises. There you go. You can see the whine went away. You can hear that hard drive churning away. It is running System 7.5, so that is kind of cool. My SE runs 7.0. I've never actually experimented with a newer version of System 7, but hopefully when I upgrade it to an SE30 I can. Anyways, moving on here, you can see we're watching it boot up now. That screen does really look great, and you know, the screen actually does have an issue, which we'll get to here in a minute. These PowerBooks have an issue called screen tunnel vision, or kind of vignetting, where, as far as I can understand it, the glue that holds the LCD layers together degrades over time due to a defect in manufacturing or aging, or possibly a combination of both, where as the computer is on for a little bit, the corners of the screen will start to darken, and you'll kind of get a very heavy vignette pattern. But as you can see, for right now, the screen actually does look pretty good. I'll go ahead and turn the brightness down just a little bit. There's not a huge range of motion with the brightness control, so that's kind of what we're going to have to work with, but we'll see what we can do. Now this thing is not very speedy. It does have a Motorola 68030 running at 25 megahertz, so it is a little bit faster than my Macintosh SE, but yeah, that did happen. Okay, thank you. What was I saying? 68030 at 25 megahertz, which is kind of nice. It does have 8 megabytes of RAM. I believe these supported up to 14, but it does have I believe a 6 megabyte upgrade card on the CPU card, so that's actually pretty nice. And yeah, here we are, as you can see. So I'll go ahead and start with the About This Mac, and you're probably going to notice the corners of the screen start to darken as we do carry out this video, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit so you can see that beautiful screen just a little bit better. You can see we're running System Software 7.5, and we do have 8 megabytes of RAM here, so that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and get out of there. Now this thing doesn't seem to have a whole lot of software on it, but it is what it is. Now I don't have a battery installed, and that is kind of funny that it is reporting. Oh no, it knows. Okay, good. No, that actually is the file sharing logo. So it is kind of funny that it says the battery's charging when there's no battery installed. But anyways, moving on. Let's go ahead and look at some other stuff. Now there really is not a whole lot of software on here, but if we go into the hard drive folder, let's take a look at that again. So it does have some, a lot of Office documents like Quicken, Microsoft Office. It actually does have the whole suite of Office, which is pretty cool. So we have Word, Word 6, PowerPoint 3, and Excel 5, so that's pretty cool. There is a document here. Let's see if we can try and open that. It may have been the one that I just typed about half hour ago, but let's see. Just give it a second to think about it. She's trying her best. That's a nice splash screen. 1994. As far as I can tell, this computer was last used, or actually the documents on it, rather, date from late 1997. So I don't know if it's been sitting in storage since or whatnot, but either way. Yeah, so this is the document that I typed, but if I just give it a second to load here. There we go. I'll go ahead and select all this, get rid of it, and I can go, hello, YouTube. I am typing on the PowerBook 170. The keyboard is pretty mushy. Which is absolutely the truth. The keyboard on this thing is actually quite mushy, but that may just be a 90s laptop thing. Anyways, let's go ahead and get out of that. I'll go ahead and quit. I notice on this version of Microsoft Word, it doesn't ask you if you want to save. It must just auto-save. So that's kind of interesting. She's thinking about it. And it's funny because it says, "Have a nice day" when you quit Microsoft Word. Thank you, PowerBook. I'm trying to have a nice day. So there you go. That's really all I can show you. There's really no other software on it. It's not like my SE where it has like 20 games on it to keep you busy, but that is pretty much it. Just Office software. So I imagine this was, a business notebook, as you would expect. But yeah, that is the PowerBook 170. I'm really excited that this thing works. That actually makes me pretty happy. I wasn't really sure if it was going to work, being that it's so old. But, it is what it is. I'll go ahead and shut her down. And this computer actually is new enough to have the soft power on and off, so that actually is pretty nice. But there you go, guys. That's the PowerBook 170. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one.